I think social entrepreneurs are like the shamans. They can be like shamans of civilization. My name is Gijs, and we are in Oroville. And to be more specific, we're in the youth center. I'm working on a bus project, which is an old bus that came about 30 years ago, overland through Iran, Afghanistan, etc., from Germany. And then for the last 10 years it's been staying here and gathering rust, and I felt sorry for it, so now we're building a roof over it, and the idea is to make it into a co-working space. There are various aspects of this social entrepreneurship that inspire me, but one of them is that it talks about people and their aspiration to leave something behind, to build a model or a system or an organizational form that doesn't depend on the founder. The second aspect that I find really inspiring is the creativity side of it. So I consider social entrepreneurs people who look at, even if they're like little wedges of entry points to a solution, they look at the glass as half full rather than the glass as half empty. Maybe a third aspect that resonates with me is this idea of change, that the world is changing really, really fast, and it seems like the rate of change is picking up, like it's changing even faster. Like next year it'll change faster than it was last year. Social entrepreneurs thrive in areas of like uncertainty and complexity, and I think it's an attitude that more people need to get used to. But I think what's happening right now at large in the world is that people are getting so upset with all this change that they retract and they become less creative and they become more defensive and more polarized. And I feel social entrepreneurs are like, it's fine, okay, we can ride this wave, and if it crashes, okay, we'll find another wave. So I like that way of life, or that kind of attitude that comes with social entrepreneurship. You could say all these things are the same for commercial entrepreneurship. For me, where social entrepreneurship is different is that the intention is not to kind of play the game with the rules that apply today, which are all about greed and competition and me first and elbowing your way to the top. So for me, social entrepreneurship offers an opportunity to both stay really true to your core values and your ethics, which I think most people have in common. I'm with the school that believes that ultimately humans are quite a good species, and we have altruism and we have empathy and we care for other forms of life. So I believe we have that in us, and I think social entrepreneurship relieves us from this schizophrenic idea that, oh, there's doing good and then there's doing well. You can be successful or you can be nice, and you can't be both together. And social entrepreneurship for me proves this theory wrong. It says that, yeah, you can actually do both. There are many ways to start this story. I guess one that makes sense to everybody is that everybody wears clothes. And that means that we are all connected to this worldwide cotton textile value chain. And unfortunately, the current state of this value chain, it's very sad. It's very problematic in many ways. Many people have heard that cotton is a very thirsty crop, so it drinks a lot of water. It's also a very highly pesticide-intensive crop. So roughly the statistics are that 40 to 50% of pesticide are used on cotton in many regions where it's only 4 to 5% of the land area. So there's a hugely disproportionate use of toxic chemicals on this one particular crop. Then another area where it's very problematic is farmer suicides. So in India alone, about 300,000 farmers have killed themselves over the last 15 to 20 years. It's basically because I'm an agriculture engineer, so I feel partly responsible, at least my discipline is partly responsible for this, because what had happened in the Green Revolution is that small farmers were told, like, your indigenous way of farming is crap, you need to switch to this high input form of farming. Yes, it's expensive, but we'll give you a loan. If the weather is good, the rain's on time, it's not too much, not too little, you can pay back the loan. Nobody thought of what would happen if the rain is not good. And unfortunately, the reality is that most of the time, the rain is not good. It's either too much, too little, too early, too late. And this system of high external input agriculture is not resilient. It doesn't do well in a very dicey growing scenario. It does well in laboratory conditions, or in conditions where you can turn on the water when you need it and turn off when you don't. Indian farmers are not like that. 70% of Indian farmers are depending on rain. So we have a chronic problem that it's not only cotton, but cotton is a big cash crop, so farmers depend on that to pay off whatever loan they took for not just agriculture, but like getting your kids married or building a house or buying a bike, whatever. It's like they see it as this way out of poverty, through cash. And it's failed, tens of millions of farmers. Then, of course, you've got the whole other situation of people working in garment industries that are, working under very bad conditions, and sometimes your factory collapses on your head, like in Bangladesh, or sometimes the factories just leave, like happened a lot in India. They go from India to Bangladesh, and Bangladesh to Myanmar, and Myanmar to Ethiopia. So in so many ways, this just simple fact of wearing a t-shirt is highly problematic. What we did about unpacking all this convoluted knot of problems was looking at how can we de-risk farmers. How can we acknowledge that yes, you are depending on rain, and rain is high risk context. So how can you first of all not borrow so much money, and do less bad if the rain is not as you hoped. So the first step is take away all the things you need to buy. So chemical fertilizer, chemical pesticides, big machinery, how can we avoid all of that? Then the second is that if the rain is late, how can we increase the water holding capacity of the soil so that it doesn't dry out immediately? And both these problems can be solved with organic agriculture. So we did this, and we started with in 2003 with about 200 farmers, and it became really popular, and in 3 to 4 years we had 12,000 farmers. So the fact that it became popular is, for me, it's enough proof that it works. It's like one village speaks to another village and like, hey, how did you do that? And how did you spend so much less? And how come that you still have quite a good crop? And I have to be honest, also the fact that we were able to give direct market linkages played a big role in the popularity. The current market access is problematic. So, as a farmer, you've invested 1 year of effort or half a year of effort, and then your crop is ready, and then you need to sell it as quick as possible because by then your money has run out. Most farmers, even if they're small, they rely on external labor for cotton harvesting, for example, so they need to pay off these people. So you're at a very bad negotiation position by the time that your harvest is ready. And everybody knows that, including the traders. So there's a lot of exploitation of small farmers happening in the market. The government in India tries to protect farmers by offering a kind of a minimum support price. But even if you want to sell through the government, often they pay very, very late, like 6 months later, or sometimes not at all. So yeah, market access is another concern. What we did is we had a technical intervention that helped farmers convert to organic, and then we had a socio-economic intervention which helped farmers to aggregate their produce so that we're not just one farmer with one lorry, but we're 500 farmers, so we can negotiate better terms of trade. And then what we thought is that, okay, once we have this amazing cotton, it's organic, it's fair trade, we can't just sell it to the anonymous market, because the anonymous market doesn't understand the value that we've just added. So we realized, we call it like kangaroo marketing. In order to sell our fiber to the spinning mill, we have to find a customer for the yarn, and in order to sell the fabric to the garment factory, we have to find a market for the end product that the garment factory is exporting. So we had to be one step in advance of our buyers all the time, which meant that ultimately we ended up talking to the consumers in different markets, but I'm talking like 10, 15 years ago. In India, there was not a ready organic fair trade market. So we went to Europe. We spoke to many brands who had a direct relationship with consumers. And what we believed is that consumers and producers actually have the same interests. They all want a better life, and they want to leave the world in the hands of their children in a better state than how they found it. Like, there's no producer or consumer who's going to not agree with that. Unfortunately, there are 15 steps of a supply chain in between, so they don't know each other. So what we did is we did a lot of campaigns that explained to the producer, like, here is your consumer, here's where your product ends up, and we told the consumers, here's your producer, here's where your t-shirt started its journey. So we had, for example, swing tags with like a picture of a farmer, and same like now you will see in there's a lot of campaigns like Fashion Revolution says who made my clothes, and then there's a social media thing like I made your clothes, or I grew your cotton. And when you ask about impact, I think the biggest impact was this revaluing of you could say old-fashioned or like low-tech farming methods. It wasn't any longer seen as like old-fashioned and stupid and backward, but it was seen as, oh, this is something that can get you a lot of worldwide attention and more direct trading relationships, and it reduces your costs, and the yields, especially for smallholder farmers, were at par as with conventional. Now this sector has I was going to say exploded, but maybe that's a bit heavy. It has bloomed. There are many organic fair trade cotton textile projects right now, and so yeah, some of the same people that we worked with and we trained are now working in those other projects. So I think that's also an impact. It created like a ripple. So what is possible, and what role can social entrepreneurship play in that future? Joanna Macy, she talks about the great turning. She talks about 3 different stories we can tell ourselves about where we are at right now. One is the business as usual story, saying that it's fine, this climate emergency is a technical challenge. So some new geek will invent some new AI or geotechnology, and we're going to fix it. Like we fixed stuff in the past. That is one story. Another story is that the doomsday story, that we're all fucked already. So collapsology, so that's the second story. The third story is that yes, we are screwed. We are at a urgent crisis right now in many ways, but there's a great turning happening. There are people like that are saying like, stop this madness. Is there another path? And social entrepreneurs can be like the pioneers on that other path.